right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. Now, this is going to be a jam-packed session, but I hope that everyone's having a great jam-packed day so far. I've been personally enjoying all of the sessions that we've had here today at the L&D conference so far. And in our next particular upcoming session, we will be talking about how to unlock the potential of your organization. Now, did you actually know industry research finds that most L&D organizations are struggling with change, given the plethora of platforms and emerging technologies that are available to the modern learner? But we've got your back with our two speakers that are going to be coming on and telling us all they know and all the experience that they have. And they are none other than Scott Margason, who is the Executive Vice President from InfoPro Learning. And we also have Prem Bhagat, who is the Vice President from InfoPro Learning as well. Now, they will be sharing about how organizations can unlock their organization's true potential. Scott and Prem, are you guys there? Maybe you can join us.
Hello.
Hey, Scott. Hey, Prem.
Thanks a lot.
Say hi to everyone.
Hi. I hope you guys can listen to us clearly. Okay, great. So can we get the deck up? And before we start, I should be saying that this is awesome. This is a beautiful conglomeration of private, public, and government entities getting together. And if you ask me, this is the testimony of the fact that we are living in the future. And if you see, matching is actually happening here. And I'm so proud to be here in Singapore. The other most important thing is people matters. You guys have been pulling this through. Awesome job. Kudos to you all. I hope you guys are having a great time in this session. And if you start from the very beginning, I love what Esther started by saying, that technology is redefining learning. And I also heard another session where Chin Hong and Prasad were talking about how learning is more important than knowing. So what we do today here is to go into skills, and we will talk about journeys, which makes learning exciting. Before we actually start, I would just ask Scott to give us a small intro.
Prem, thank you. Scott Margason. I'm based out of Denver, and I wish I were there physically. Wish we could meet in person because it's minus 14 degrees here in Denver. And I think if we were meeting in person, it'd be warmer. So a pleasure to be with you today.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Scott. Can we move to the next slide, please? Oh, I can do that. So what we are going to cover today is understanding what future skills are all about and why the shift in the focus. Everybody has been talking about it. We'll quickly go and understand how is it that you can unlock the talent potential and how do you actually do it? And the most important thing, where is it that you can start? Let me quickly go further and tell you, if you look at skill, right? Now, skill is basically an ability. It helps you solve complex problems. Now, just a while back, Scott was sharing something in LinkedIn about cross-skilling. Before I actually pass it over to Scott, I think it's important to first understand the importance of ability and how that ability is something which can be learned and taught. Those are some key aspects which we have to understand. And how an organization enables learning and teaching in a manner which ensures that we become a lifelong learner. So quickly, giving you a context of skill, I would now want Scott to just talk about, upskilling, reskilling. What do you think? And the new concept of cross-skill. Over to you, Scott.
Thanks, Prem. Words are powerful because they stick in our minds. They're like toothpaste. Once it comes out of the tube, you can't get them back in. And what I find is that when we talk about upskilling and reskilling, that those words can actually have an unintended negative connotation. People are falling short of the mark, so they need to be upskilled. People are less effective or less relevant, so they need to be re-skilled. While this is true that we need to address skill deficits, and in some cases we need to train people to do something totally different, I don't believe reskill and upskill were intended to be demeaning or diminutive, but instead they sometimes come across that way. So one of the things that Prem and I have been talking about and sharing with our clients is let's focus on cross-skilling. Let's start with people's innate gifts, what the abilities that they've already developed, and let's extend them. It's almost similar to cross-selling, where there's a core sale and then there's additional products or services that are added on to make the experience or the product much more robust or user-friendly. So cross-skilling is really developing additional skills to enable people to become more multifaceted, to become more effective. In other words, it's like putting more arrows in their quiver so that they can contribute more, they can contribute in a different way with new and additional responsibilities.
Oh, I love it, Scott. And frankly speaking, this leads us to a very important stuff. What exactly is future skill? So what we have actually tried to do here is put together work which has been done by the University of Phoenix, and we just loved it. We have been speaking to our clients and lots of problems which needs to be addressed, and they fall really well in these 8 bullets. For example, when you're talking about sense making, now that's an ability of a talent to quickly pick up an experience, make sense out of it, and put that into use. Social intelligence, we are all aware of that. Adaptive thinking, no better time than now when you need people to be adaptive. Media literacy, we are all aware of how influencers today are making significant impact on our everyday lives. Virtual collaboration, we have been stuck with Zoom, Teams, and now we have a beautiful platform here. So if you actually look at it, it is opening plethora of option for us to make use and be effective. Let's not forget about computational thinking. AI, machine learning is something which is, we talk about the companies today, everybody is talking about it. Transdisciplinarity, I think that is a huge connotation to what Scott was just talking about when he spoke about cross skill. And not to forget cross cultural competency. Now, I think it sums up really well. We know that there's been a lot of research which has been done with numerous consulting companies. But for us, and in the way we have been engaging with our clients, this sums up really well. So, Scott, looking at this 8, right? Anything you think, is a focus for you or stands out?
Prem, there are 3 that I really want to focus on. And it's sense making, social intelligence, and cross-cultural competency. So sense making, people perish without a vision. They struggle. We struggle when we lack meaning. So we need to give meaning to an experience. People have a deep craving to connect with purpose. And the purpose and the vision, Simon Sinek is one of the latest to really focus in this area, but it really helps everyone focus in the same direction. So they're pulling those oars in the same direction. The social intelligence is one that is so critical. EQ is just a simpler way to say it. While technology is getting a lot of the press, Prem, the reality is that technology is becoming more and more proliferated and contributing, doing things that we never even thought it could take care of and do for us. But at the end of the day, we're still a people that need to interact, now more with machines, but still with each other. And so that EQ, that social intelligence, has to balance that technology focus. And the cross-cultural competency, look, we have people from all over. I happen to be in Denver, Colorado. 10,000 miles away from where you are. And yet we're right here. Yet oftentimes, if we're not careful, and what we see in our clients when we develop and deploy learning with across the globe, that cross-cultural piece is foundational. And the simplest of things make such a difference. I was sailing on a ship once, just a quick story. And we went through actually a typhoon, and the morning after, quiet seas, but it was a rough night. And then the leader on the ship wrote a note to the captain: will you put out some saltines, some crackers? And the captain read it incorrectly, and he put out a whole display of sardines. Now, something that was very simple, and yet people walked down it and they actually had a little bit of trouble with that smell. As opposed to saltines to comfort, they got sardines. So it's those simple little things that cross-cultural competency address.
I agree, and I see great, occasions where clients have come back to us being very specific. Hey, I want you guys to focus on our value and culture. So it's important. Thank you. Let's quickly move on. So now we know, what are these future skills? It's important to also understand, why this focus. Technology, we all know, has been important. We got doubly disrupted because of the economy and the pandemic, and not to forget automation. And if you talk and hear the research reports, we have all been amazed by the skill gap. Talking about the freshers to even experienced professionals, and not to forget the technology folks who see new technology coming in every 6 months, I would say. And then this actually leads to an accelerated change. So that is basically the reason why we need to focus on future skills. And that also leads us to another important aspect. Now we understand the concept of future skill. Why is it really important? How is it that you actually enable that in your organization? And that's the key. And that you need to do because you need to secure a better future. A positive affirmation to ensure that your workforce are engaged. You need to unleash or maximize their potential. And not to forget, people leaving is an additional burden. And that shortage, we have to ensure a way to ensure that we can cover up. What I'll probably do, sorry, Scott, you were saying something.
Prem, I just wanted to highlight, Attica asked about which future skills are highly sought after. And of course, each one of these are important. I highlighted 3 that I thought were so important, more the human side than some of the technology side. So hopefully that answers that. But there is a question from Stanislaus that says, can you give an example of adaptive thinking, like behavior or skill in workplace? It's maybe new for me.
You want me to take that?
Sure.
Yeah. Sure. Adaptive thinking, just imagine if, for example, I moved to the United States from Singapore. Now, there was a big shift in the culture and I moved into a different role. I was doing HR and I moved into a pre-sales role. Now, look at the competency which makes me adaptive. First is curious. Second thing is a quick learner, analytical bent of mind, and critical thinking. So if you look at it, the functional sides of things got negated because of these skills which were brought in, which made the difference. And that is what we are alluding to, adaptive thinking. Let me quickly move on. I hope I answered to your question. We have a beautiful story which I want Scott to cover quickly, and then we can move on.
Well, how do we unlock potential? It sounds so easy, and actually it's easier than we think. We make things complicated sometimes. But take the story of the palm tree. Palm trees are beautiful. They grow, some of them immensely tall, and they're vertical. And yet, some palm trees have the ability in storms, typhoons, hurricanes, to be able to go almost horizontal, but then to return to a vertical position. Now, some of it's by design. Their leaves are like feathers so that the wind, so they can be very adaptive to that wind. but some of it is developmental. So let's take a baby palm tree and we think, oh, we want to develop this person and their whole skill set. We're going to put them in the perfect environment. Let's put the palm tree in a greenhouse, perfect temperature, sunshine, water, nutrients, and all that. Well, after a while, you take that tall palm tree out, a little wind comes along, and what happens? It snaps off at the root. Failure. Well, why? Well, because palm trees, when they start very young, they need a little bit of wind. Why? Because the wind starts to take and stretch those sinews and actually break them. And unlike our skin, which hardens a scar, if you will, those actually, they become much more flexible as they grow and they experience wind. So as opposed to taking it out in a little wind cuts it off right at the root, they've developed over time the ability to adapt and stretch and fall over and come back up. So the question that I have for the group here is, how are you enabling your team, your people, to experience the wind so that they can grow? And if you go to the next slide, really what we're saying here is that we need to personalize a journey. We think of learning as a journey, not as a bespoke event. And that journey, as we go through it, really starts with awareness, almost like a movie that's coming out. We all know the movie's coming. Why? Because there are trailers, there are videos, there are billboards or signs or whatever it happens to be. And we're building that awareness. Then we develop some conceptual understanding. And that's really what I call the pre-work. Then we get into the training, the event itself. Maybe it's in a classroom, physically, virtually. Maybe it's just an in-depth, simulation that you're drawn into. Obviously, we want to make sure that they've learned something. Yep.
30 seconds, Scott.
No worries. And then you need to apply it. And it's that application is where the wind comes in.
Yeah. I think, Scott, I didn't want to take this from you. I think this is a very good snapshot of what we actually do. So the question in your mind is basically where to start.
Where to start?
And if you actually look at it, we have tremendous experience in creating these learning journey for you. We have been doing this for years and we love doing what we do. Our focus has been on creating personalized blended learning journey, which can be used in formal, informal setup, which are always outcome based. We are more than happy to engage with you. This has been a lovely opportunity for us to get started. We started off some 3-4 months back with our office in Singapore, and we want to grow this region. And we know that there is potential. We know that there is craving for doing something more, and there is dearth for talent, and also a want by most of the organization to build and grow the talent. So we come in, reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to work with you. Scott, any parting words from you?
Thank you so much. We just appreciate it. Hopefully we planted some seeds, whether it's the communications or it's the palm tree. Hopefully those will stick in your mind. Help your people experience the wind.
Cross-skilling. That was a good one, Scott, as well.
That's what it is. Thank you so much.
Any questions, Ritu? Do we have anything?
I think that's all the questions that we have, Prem and Scott. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Great analogies, and I really enjoyed the session personally. But thank you so much for helping us to unleash the full potential of your organization for their L&D strategy. Please do not forget to all of our other audience members right now to follow the conversation, and you can use the hashtag PM L&D APAC on the social media channels. You can publish this on Twitter, or you can publish this on LinkedIn. Next up in the L&D agenda is a standpoint on tangible industry tips to sustain the culture of upskilling And Peter Atfield is going to be delivering this particular keynote for us. He is the Chief Talent and Learning Officer of Jardine Matheson. So we'll see you there at the next session, and don't be late for that.